I before E or except after C. If adding an ing, you drop the final E. When adding an ending to words ending in a single consonant, you usually double the consonant. And generally, when adding a prefix to the word, it does not change the spelling. But for some reason, the most misspelled word, or one of the most misspelled words in the English language, is the word misspelling. What the heck? What's going on with the English language? Hi, everybody. In the digital content generating world, how important is spelling, grammar, and pronunciation? Well, we've got a few people who are going to talk about this today, and also we're going to unload on people, but I don't want you to take it personally. Because when we're talking about the English language, we're talking about the essence of trying to be as good as we can, but we also understand that there are cultural differences, language differences, and those things do affect how we're going to speak. And I'm not going to speak a language from the other side of the world near as well as they know how to speak their language. And so I'm sure that if we understand, they're going to allow me some freedom to express as best I can. Of course, we want to allow them the same honors. But what we're concerned with today is the fact that we should try to do as best we can. We are communication specialists, blogging, writing in our, posting in our social media and so forth, and we're writing articles and we're trying to be the authorities in our field. So the best we can do is the best we can do, and we should at least have a good idea what the best is or what proper is before we move from there. So good morning, Saturday morning marketing smarties, and I'm welcoming people from various parts of the world, and we're just going to have some fun today, and we're also going to unleash, as I said, and that way, if we want to like air our pet peeves and tell you what we think of the English language and how it's being used today, you will forgive us in advance. Meanwhile, if you actually make it through without changing the so-called station out of frustration, there are things to be learned today. And some of them will shock you. Some of them will be like, oh, yeah, I knew that. I knew that. Oh, yeah, I've been doing that naturally and didn't know the rule, but I've been doing that. But there are going to be things that you did not know. And so we bring these things to you today, and we'll play with them. So let me start off by, I'm going to introduce my panel members for just a second, in just a minute. But first, even with the panel members, we have a little quiz. So I'll launch the quiz at you, and then we'll introduce you. So first of all, regarding the English language, which is correct? Carol wants to meet with John and I or me. I'll repeat that. Carol wants to meet with John and I, or Carol wants to meet with John and me. That's one. Second part of the quiz. He and Tom told, he told Tom and I, or Tom and me, to get ready. I will repeat that. He told Tom and I to get ready, or he told Tom and me to get ready, which is correct. Part 3, one more. The invitation was for my wife and I, or my wife and me. I will repeat. The invitation was for my wife and I, or the invitation was for my wife and me. So, which is correct? And I'm going to give everybody a little chance to think about that for a second. And I'm not allowed to play the Jeopardy theme song. I'm sorry about that. But just before I announce, tell everyone about my guest panelists. What is your thought, Barbara? What is the answer to these three parts?
All of them are me.
All of them are me. Karen, what did you think?
I was going to say the same thing, that all of them were me.
And what is your vote, Tim?
Honestly can't remember. My brain was thinking strict grammar was I, colloquial grammar was me.
Okay, that's pretty close, and there is some weight to that. But the answer, everybody, was me, me, me. All three questions should have been me. And this is one of the most common errors that I find in the English language. So this is exactly the type of thing that we are going to be dealing with today. In other words, it should have been Carol wants to meet John and me. And because you wouldn't say Carol wants to meet I, you would say me. So when you add a person, it doesn't change the text, the context with me. So Carol wants to meet with John and me. The next one, he told Tom and me to get ready. Because you wouldn't say he told Tom or he told I to get ready. You would say he told me to get ready. So when you add the person, it remains the same. He told Tom and me to get ready. And then the third one, same thing. It's just a little bit different phraseology, which makes you think maybe it's different here, but it's not, because we are the object of the verb. I mean, we are the subject of the action. So the invitation was for my wife and me. The invitation was not for I, it was for me. So when you add the person, the invitation was for my wife and me. And this particular one is the one I find most often violated. And it's done by the highest people from the highest realms. Um, Probably the president has done this before, and so everybody, some of my favorite people that I listen to make this mistake. So that's what we're going to cover today. But by whom? Let me introduce my panelists to you, and I'll start off with Barbara Quick. Barbara is a blogger and owns two websites and is running basically two businesses. One is dogsandtheirowners.com, and the other one is discoveryhealthhappiness.com. And she's one of my favorite people and friends, and she was one of the first ones ever to join me in these Hangouts. So, Barbara, say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi there. Yeah, I keep myself too busy most of the time. Unfortunately, I keep doing things, and pretty soon there's no time to do anything. But it's fun. I enjoy being online and doing things online.
Thank you. And one of the things that I know about Barbara, and she'll probably be telling more about this, is I do happen to know that she is linguistically and grammar-wise one of the most efficient writers that I know. So that's one of the reasons we brought her in today. So now I'm going to move over to my next person and introduce you to Karen V. Chin, who is a San Francisco marketing specialist, and she's going to explain a little bit about herself. She is a definite proponent of special engagement and knows how to engage in social media. And I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about her. Go ahead, Karen.
Thanks, Roland. Yeah, I'm out here in San Francisco Bay Area. I am a marketing consultant, and I am now combining with my knowledge of traditional marketing with social media. So that's a little bit about me. I could go on, but I think we really need to get into talking about spelling, grammar, and pronunciation.
No, we don't. We're going to sit here and jabber all day. No, we're not. We're going to dig in because even Barbara and I talked about this months ago, that we wanted to have a session on the English language and the abuse of the English language. But before we move on and get lost again, we have a wild card panelist today. He's a friend of mine that I met very recently, and he's an artist of the highest level, and he's been doing this for a long, long time. He's also been involved in many business ideas, but the reason he's here is that I've basically met him recently, and we just found an affinity for what we believe in, and that's the foundation of what we do. Plus, I've done a lot of talking with him, and I know he's linguistically pretty sound. So we're going to invite Tim Longwell to tell you a little bit about his art and what he does. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I'm Tim Longwell. I market my art under the logo Longwell Art, and basically I turn dreams, ideas, memories, and photos into works of fine art.
Okay, that is really cool. And if anyone wants to go to his website, you can do that. And I don't really promote everybody openly on this program, but I would advise you, if you want to see some great art, go to Tim Longwell Art or Google him and so forth, and you can find. Is that the right address, Tim?
It's longwellart.com.
Okay, that's it.
Real simple,
Longwellart.com.
longwellart.com.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you very much. So, among other things that we will be considering today is the concept of texting and how that has demolished or really, aggravated the English language, short-circuiting things and changing things. It's like text messaging has caused their own language, and yesterday's skills and proper English are quickly disappearing as a result of this and other deviations. For example, cursive is no longer taught in schools, I think, at any level, is it? And if cursive is not taught, well then, what is a signature anymore on a check? It's a scribble. And I am a witness to the fact that a lot of young people in their teens and their 20s cannot write in cursive. And furthermore, a lot of them can't read it. It's serious. They can't read the handwritten language that we were born with. And so to me, that is really appalling. And, well, what can we say? So anyway, the language has pretty much been demolished. And I think that we can make a little effort to bring it back to integrity by considering that there are things that we can spell better, there are things that we can say better, and we're live on camera, and we're writing blogs, and we're writing articles, and we owe it to ourselves and to others to express ourselves as best we can. So let's go over to Barbara for a moment and ask her to express what is your pet peeve, and what would you say is like one of the things that you would attribute to the downfall of the English language?
Well, I notice that a lot of people post on all the different social media sites, and interchangeably use the wrong to or too. They'll use to when they mean also. They'll use to or too when they just mean going to somewhere. And they just, I see this so often, and it's one of those things that's kind of like, ooh.
I see it daily. So is there any way we can refine people's thoughts about the two words? And, well, there's two, also there's TWO, I guess, but let's not confuse that. Maybe we can give a clue that will help people use the right one at the right place.
Well, like I say, TOO is interchangeable possibly with the word also.
Okay.
And then TO is if you're going to somewhere or you're going to do something, that's TO.
Okay, so the basic fundamental rule is with one O is going to or towards or objectivity-wise towards something or to it. And to, as in TOO, is always interchangeable with the word also.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to me. I've got a few of those rules like that for some other things, and we'll address that in a minute. But maybe you could also bring to mind how you and I met, because it really is involving exactly what we're talking about here today. Can you reminisce a little bit about the meeting of us?
Yeah, I joined LinkedIn among other social sites, and was reading a lot of the comments on there, and all of a sudden I keep seeing Roland's name come up on this one particular individual, especially trying to explain. You don't, try and sell the biggest rip-off deal on LinkedIn, and which this person kept, oh, you can make $1 million type of heading on his articles. And then everything this person wrote was all lowercase letters, no punctuation, the letter I for himself, nothing. No capitals, no punctuation anywhere in anything he wrote. Just this string of words. And you're reading and trying to think, what is he saying? You can't, it's really hard when he's got a whole line of words and no punctuation or capitals or anything. So Roland was cautioning him on his sales pitches. And so then I started cautioning him on the fact that he's not using punctuation or capitals. And so next thing then, I guess we went to personal messages then on LinkedIn. And I said, gee, finally I found somebody that can write decent English. And so next thing we connected and became friends. It just was so nice to find somebody that could actually spell and use proper punctuation and capitals. And
Well, the issue with this was that we were so appalled that this guy could not communicate properly, and then he's in LinkedIn, which is more of a little bit more formal, business communication going on. And then all of a sudden we realize this guy does he even have a third grade education? And here he is trying to sell memberships and well, actually he was proposing these things that are free to join, make $1 million and make, this and that. And of course there are hundreds of these things on the market, and I've researched, whenever I research them, it's because someone's trying to hand me an opportunity and trying to recruit me. And of course, after a brief look, I can find out that this thing is just like everything else on the market, a huge scam, and it's going to be gone in a year or two if it lasts that long. But the point was that this guy was trying to communicate in a professional atmosphere and showing how illiterate he was, and that's an effect that you don't want to give people. I mean, if you're trying to recruit people to make money, the least you can do is be formal about it enough to have some consideration to express yourself properly. And I understand that there will be cases where you can't, but you really, really should try. And this guy, he has to go back to grammar school. So, spelling and everything was an issue. But,
well, and he didn't really want to listen to help either. He was very stubborn about listening to any help.
Well, he was a classic outbound marketing schemer, and that's all he wanted to do was push his message out and get some results and play the numbers game. Well, this is one of the reasons that I'm so down on traditional marketing. And by the way, Karen mentions that we also know that Comment Tracker is not working, and I'm very sorry about that. I came on and started the Hangout today after 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. my time, 2 hours before the Hangout, just to test this out. And I got it working for me, and then I started reaching out to people, saying, hey, would you come in here and try to comment on the event page, and it wasn't working. So the gremlins have figured out a way to hack us again. And I don't have an answer. And Rain Dowell, Zara, and Sheila, Sheila Strover and Zara Altair all tried to help me, and there were some other people. Craig tried to help me. Tim came up and tried to help me earlier, and it's still messed up. So whatever. we're just going to have our conversation and keep on going, and the heck with people if you can't comment. No, I'm kidding. I really wish that you could comment, and I sympathize with the fact that we have that issue. And I'm going to reach out to Hatcher today, Andrew Hatcher, and see if he can give me a clue. So anyway, thank you, Barbara. We're going to move down the line and take up a little bit of Karen's time and see what, because I think she's got something special planned for us. And then we're going to go to Tim Longwell for a few words from him, and then I've got a couple things to wrap us up if we have any time. So go ahead, Karen. What did you have for us?
Actually, so my big pet peeve is apostrophes and actually how to use them, because I find of a certain age now, people don't know. I think what I've seen, especially people who are in their 20s, mid-20s, early 30s especially, don't know how to use apostrophes, and that just drives me up the wall. So I wanted to kind of show an actual an infographic that I found, and actually it's an interesting website that you might want to bookmark for others, because it's really easy and simple to read and gives you really great examples so that you can quickly understand how to use, for example, apostrophes and other grammar tips that I'll show you in a minute. So let me share you with my screen and take that here. Barbara, let's see, right here. So does everyone see my screen right now? How to use an apostrophe? Can you see it? Yes?
Yes,
Can you see it?
yes, we can.
Okay. So this is a really cool blog that I found called the Oatmeal. And I think the guy has his own kind of little bits and odds and ends, but he is a grammar fiend in terms of making sure that his message gets out. So he does his own line drawings besides writing out his grammar. So it's basically this really cute infographic that I found. It says how to use an apostrophe, and it's basically, is it a plural? Plural means more than one, so it keeps it really simple. So if he shows how to actually show you what does that mean. So if you got the two cats, and then goats are great for transportations, and then when you don't use an apostrophe. So there's two exceptions. So for example, he says, is it a single letter word? For example, there are two T's with apostrophe, so T's in kittens, then it's okay. But you can also use it as, again, T's with the S outside of it, no apostrophe, so in quotations, in kittens. Or the other way of doing it, is it a number or an abbreviation? For example, 90s fashion was a bit awkward. Just say no to hammer pants. But then you also want to say, then do this. I attend college in the late 90s, so where you see the apostrophe goes there. In the early 2000s, you don't put apostrophe after the last zero in S there. So you don't do that. It also says here too, is it indicating a possession? So again, he's showing possession means to own something. So for example, Bob's hat, so where the apostrophe is, Bob apostrophe S hat was made out of jelly beans. So that's when you use an apostrophe. But you also need to watch out, is it a plural and a possessive? So for example, if soldiers, which are plural, because you see the word rifles, the apostrophe should be after the S. Unless if the word is a plural, like children, so that you don't put the apostrophe, he has it here, children's after the S. It should be, as he stated here, the apostrophe should be before the S. Because if you put the other, that doesn't make any sense, because children is the plural of child. Is it a contradiction? Of course, then you use an apostrophe. A contradiction is when you omit a few letters, for example. So I cannot, it could also mean I can't believe you fit that entire watermelon in your mouth. Or I do not, or I don't like putting honeybees in my underpants. Or I would not, or wouldn't recommend scuba diving inside a volcano. So again, if you want to shorten cannot, do not, or would not, that's when you would use, again, that apostrophe. And this is another one of my pet peeves, is the word of when to use it is and it's. So it is, again, is when you always use an apostrophe. So it is unusual to put crickets in your coffee, but I do it anyway. So again, that's when you use the apostrophe. Or it has, so again, apostrophe, has been a fun day. We should go to the Velociraptor petting zoo more often. I hope I'm saying that right. Yeah,
Velociraptor.
Raptor. Okay. See, I like butchered the language there. I'm sorry, Roland. It's it's again the difference between it is and it's indicating a possession. So when he's got a great tip here, is if you're unsure, simply try replacing it is. If it sounds okay, that way use an apostrophe. But if it doesn't sound okay, don't use it. So for example, Roland, I can't say that word again.
Velociraptor.
Velociraptor is known for its cute, playful nature, but its inability to sing in key is unfortunate. So again, because it's referring to this, that's when you don't use the apostrophe. As we keep going here, is it a possessive name ending in S? So for example, Charles rocket ship allowed me to have lunch on the moon. Or Charles cat is always terrified during liftoff. Both are acceptable, just be consistent. So I kind of, this one, actually, I've seen this a couple of times now, and I always thought that this was the correct way of doing this, where you put the apostrophe after the S, so that, again, Charles is, that's how you say Charles. It's not as if it was without the S. But this actually, I think, is the Chicago style manual now, that this is actually okay to do this, where you put the apostrophe and then another S when, for example, when you're using the word Charles. So I've seen that now, and that's actually supposed to be correct. To me, I think I like this better, but that's just my own personal preference.
If I could inject on that one, Karen, the S without the additional S is pronounced Charles, just the same way the name is. But the tendency when people are pronouncing names like that is to say Charleses. And so then they started adding the S to provide a way of substantiating the way they pronounce it. But it can be pronounced just as the name is Charles. And with the apostrophe written, it's understood that it is possessive. And even if they are writing it, of course, the second S is not necessary. But just like the English language deviates and changes, the added S is something that's come along recently.
Yeah, it's like I said, I just remember in my days of middle school English grammar, it was that anything that ended with an S, you just added the apostrophe. You didn't have to add the extra S. But it seems like now it's okay, which to me, I'm still finding that kind of awkward. But this is, both ways are now considered acceptable. And then as we go on, it says, is it a possessive and a plural name? So stick it after the S. So the Johnsons, Moon Witch recipe was very famous. Again, if the Johnsons, because there are more than one Johnson, that's just the entire family, that's when you put the S there. And then they've got this cute recap again. So remember, the most apostrophes are used for possessive nouns. So if a noun owns something, use an apostrophe. Bob's jelly bean hat became sticky in the scorching sun. Or use it for contractions, excuse me. Bob's going to the store to create a bacon hat instead. And if it's not plural, don't use an apostrophe. Bacon hats, so that's plural, do not melt, and they smell wonderful. So lastly, when in doubt, don't use an apostrophe, which I think this is the key, because I think people feel the need to always put an apostrophe, and there are a lot of times you just don't. and it's just better not to do that. So the cool thing about, again, I wanted to show you is from this blog, he has in the oatmeal a whole other section here in this page of different grammar tips. So I actually like this one, and I'm not going to go into it, but when to use IE in a sentence. So if you don't remember what that is, IE and EG, IE is that is, and EG is for example. So he has a whole infographic in terms of when is it proper to use IE or EG in a sentence. So that's one of the things I wanted to show. The other thing I wanted to show is actually an app that I'm using now that I don't know if you're familiar with, but it's called Grammarly, and it's free. There's also a premium version, but the free one actually works for me for my basic needs, and it's a really cool tool in a sense that you can correct, or it helps you correct your grammar, not only in your Word documents, but also if you're online, on typing a post on Google+, on Pinterest, LinkedIn, Gmail, it shows up, and I actually have downloaded, and it has a Chrome version, which I've downloaded, so you can see it up here, that I have it, that it's active. And also they have a Microsoft Office add-on. If you are also using, instead of Google Drive or Google Docs, you can also have this app for Microsoft Word and Outlook. So I found that this was very helpful, and I've actually been using it now for maybe about 3 weeks, and it helps in terms of checking grammar and spelling along the way. In basically anything I'm working on online, it will show up and correct it. So and give me the option. If you pay for the premium version, which is let's see, wait a minute, sorry, premium version. The premium version here basically will get you instant proofreading and among other things, and there's a cost associated with it, but I haven't felt the need to actually pay for it at this moment. So I think it's a great, just to try it out, you see what you think, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts and ideas are from using it in the next couple weeks. So that's it for me, Orlin.
Okay, thank you, Karen. And also, as a little bonus to her presentation, we actually got to experience exactly how to pronounce velociraptor, which a lot of people, if you've seen Jurassic Park, of course, you'll have some familiarity with what a velociraptor is. And of course, other movies that are not even concerned with Jurassic Park concepts and dinosaurs are actually using the term, so that they're like dropping a common thing so that everyone recognizes, oh, they said velociraptor. But it's good that even kids can pronounce that type of thing now. So I really liked the presentation that you gave, and I thank you very much for that. And what I'm thinking is, you gave a lot of information, and it's not easy to drill that in quickly, but at least it's on video. People can review it. Plus, we're going to be posting the links to Karen's finds in the comment stream, and of course, if people would take a look at those and see what they do for you, we can benefit from that. So thank you very much for, oh yes, thank you, Zara. Zara's keeping me straight. So let's see what I can do about recuperating my my presence here. But anyway, thank you very much. Zara, who could not really make it because she's got some things going on, is running past her computer from time to time and helping me correct my mistakes. So we're having some input from the outside, and I appreciate it, especially today where the comment streams are not working properly. But anyway, I would like to go to my third person now and give you a few minutes to talk about, do you have any pet peeves or things that bug you about the English language and the delivery and the use of people nowadays. Tim, what do you think? Whoops, we have a lack of sound. Let me see what we got going here.
There, it helps turn the lav on. I
That helps.
have a new mic, and I'm still getting used to turning it on inline. I really haven't focused as to noticing a pet peeve, except for maybe the word theirs. There, apostrophe S, there is, theirs, THEIRS, as in person's possession. You see that word mixed up all of the time.
Absolutely. And can you give some directive to people as far as when to use each one?
If you're talking about a person's personal item, or I think the way they phrased it back in grammar was the noun's possession, then you use the word theirs, THEIRS, because you're saying it's that person's, that dog's, that cat's, that tree's, whatever. Whereas if you're referencing a place, and this is where it usually comes up that people put the EIR instead of ERE when they're talking about there is a tree in the park over here that you would really like. And this is where it can really confuse them then, is if you go further on with that sentence, there's a tree in the park where there's beautiful foliage on that tree.
Got it. So when people are saying there is, that's referring back to what Karen was talking about, apostrophe. So it's THERE apostrophe S, and then that's making a compound word out of it.
And so, I've seen it with just there and there. Without plural, people will still flip that mistakenly. There, THERE, means it's a location. THER means it belongs to.
Yes, exactly. And I will add a third stage to that. There is a compound word, they are. And then that's a completely different meaning. But when you say there, it means they are. So it's THEY apostrophe RE, which is a short circuiting of the two words, or combination of the two words, they are. So there, they sound the same. They are there, or the possessive there, as in theirs, what you were saying, or the used all the time. And so that's something that it goes back to, if you want to know how to do it right, you should look it up and read about it and learn the actual time and place to use these properly. And so, it can be a problem of that sort. Absolutely. I would like to show a few things that I've found, and they are basically concerning the idea of I, me, and my. And I, me, myself, basically. Because that's something that people get confused on all the time. And I'll give some examples here and share my screen. 1 second. Okay, hopefully people can see this Word doc that I have in front of me. And reading through it, just basically to say, me is an object noun, which means that it refers to the person that the action of the verb is being done to. So, David told me to leave. He gave me $10. Between you and me, this is a bad idea. She needs to talk to Joe or me. And this is reflective of what I was saying earlier in our little quiz that we had. So many people you insert the word I instead of me. So they say things like, she needs to talk to Joe or I. And they think it's perfectly fine, and they think it's like, oh, this is the higher form of English, or the more formal way of saying it. And all it is actually a misuse of the language and the misuse of the term. Or to say, between or I, between you and me, it's a bad idea. And yet the mistake I see often is between you or I. Okay, moving on. Me is also a pronoun, which means that refers to the person. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got that duplicated there. Myself. Let's go up a little higher. The word I, when I is a first person singular. So it's the singular subject pronoun, which means that it refers to the people or the person performing the action of the verb. So I want to go. This is the one I like. You and I need to get ready. You know, obviously, it's not very common that people say, you and me get ready. But when it's in the other case, down below, people always say, as the object of the verb, or the object of the action being taken, between you and me is correct. But people always put the between you and I, this is the bad idea. And they think it's right, but basically the rule is between you and me. It's a bad idea. So this is the one I like. You and I need to get ready. Tom and I are going to the movies. Going down below, we have a completely different thing. Myself. When is myself used? And this one is not as commonly abused or misused, but it's a very, very simple thing to correct in case you're wondering. Basically, if you use the word myself, it is in the context and in the dual use of the word I. So what I mean by that is when the subject is I, and I bought myself, and then of course you're the object of the action of the verb too, you use myself. So I bought myself a car. I myself started the company. I did the laundry all by myself. So you wouldn't say I did the laundry all by me. You know, so it sounds easy enough to figure out, and it sounds pretty common, but there are times when people misuse it. I feel like myself again. Tired of waiting, I just did it myself. And there actually are times when the sentence is structured so that basically an I is not mentioned, but it's actually assumed. And so, for instance, if we say, I got tired of waiting, and then if you eliminate the I just and say, did it myself, that's still appropriate and still proper use because it's inferred that we are talking about I did it myself, or that you are talking about when yourself, I did it myself. So that's when you use myself, when you are using it in combination with an I. That's a simple rule of thumb. So anybody have any comments on these rules and regulations? I think we're going to step out of this a bit and get more casual. But these are very, very common things. And Tim brought up the they, theirs thing. That is one of Terry Lee's pet peeves. And I know he couldn't be with us today, but he wrote to me, I can't stand it when, it drives me nuts when people misuse that. So that's a very common one. And of course, we owe it to ourselves to learn when and where to use them properly. So Karen, you had something to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, so Roland, I just put up my links for what I just showed. Are you going to put this, and also maybe Terry could put his pet peeves up here too? I think people would really, the audience would really enjoy it.
You know what I will do? I will actually combine the notes. Let me unshare my screen here. I will combine the notes that I've collected into a document, and I will put a link to it in the comment stream, and so that people can download it. Because it's basically a lot of information. I collected it from a couple different sources, and so there's a lot there. But I'm more than happy to post some information there. So I'll be doing that.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, I know for me, it's always helpful to have these, around us, because you just don't necessarily know where to go. I mean, you can always Google search, but it's great to have like one document that would have all of this together. Be very helpful.
Yeah, and I think there are more rules that we could expose to people, and more rules that we could share. But I will combine a few things that I found and make them available to people. And let me see if there's something else I can add to this. Well, there's a lot, and we don't have that much more time anyway. So maybe, although this wasn't the most exciting program around, why is it important? It's important because we are content creators. We're speaking on camera and we're delivering stuff to people. We want to build some authority and some respect in the fields, and we can't do that if we are losing track of how we deliver the English language or any language. And I'm sure that people could help me, even as good as I am, and I claim to be pretty good because my dad was an English teacher, so he was always harping at me and telling me, no, you don't say me and Jim, we want to go to the movies, and this type of thing. But it's a good idea to know how to use the language properly and start from that. And if you spoke properly, you really can't go wrong. No one's going to say, wow, that kind of sounded funny. And you're going to be much better. Your communications are going to be more fluent. So one of the things that I wanted to cover before our time was up is misspelled and mispronounced words. And I'm going to give you a few ideas, okay? So you guys can unmute yourselves if you want, and if you want to jump in when I'm saying something and comment or react or just turn to the side and puke or whatever it is that however you react. I'm going to say a few things that bug the crap out of me, and just as a disclaimer, I want to say that I know plenty of people do this and say these things, and I'm not saying, gee, I can't stand you because of it, but as I'm just telling you, these are words that bug me, and I wish that the world could get them right. So it's really my problem, but maybe you might share some of your feelings about them. So the first one I wanted to bring up, and there are dozens, okay? I picked 6. There are dozens, but the first one I picked was when people say the word supposedly. Supposedly. There is no such word as supposedly. There is supposedly. It's got a D, not a B, but they say supposedly, and they go right over it. It's I'm thinking, would you write that down for me? What exactly are you saying? And of course, they probably write supposedly. Supposedly. Well, pronounce the word right, and don't get lazy on me. But people say supposedly, and this is probably one of my biggest ones. It's been bugging me since I was a kid, and I tried changing this in my sister's language and failed to this day. So maybe 50 years later, she's still saying the same way. And what I would like to do is say, people, pronounce this word to yourself. Well, go ahead and unmute your mics, everybody. And as I spell the word in sections at a time, pronounce for us right over your mic what I'm spelling for you, okay? So, first of all, S-A. Pronounce that. Go ahead, people. S-A.
It'd be saw. It'd be saw or say.
Okay, close enough. S-A-N.
Sand.
Okay, good. S-A-N-D.
Sand.
Sand.
Yeah,
Very good, everybody. Now, sandwich.
Sandwich.
Which,
Yeah, people tend to drop the D
Yeah,
when they say
sandwich.
sandwich. They say
Worse than that,
sandwich.
Sandwich.
they changed the ND to an M. I
Yeah,
mean,
I've heard them say sandwich as well, yes.
Sandwich. Yeah.
I broke it down to my sister. I said, it's not a sandwich, it's a sandwich. There's no Sam in here. And who put the M in this word? But you know that if you go out today and go to a restaurant, there will be people all around you saying sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another one that bugs the crap out of me. This one was really brought home on one day a few years ago, a couple of almost a decade ago, I guess. And I heard our president George W. get on the podium and say this in front of the millions of people who are watching. Nuclear. No reaction. But the word nuclear does not exist. The word is nuclear. Nuclear, like nu, new, clear. But it's pronounced nuclear. And the guy cannot say it. He gets up in front of the microphone and talking to the millions of people and says nuclear, and it just drives me nuts. President of the United States. Okay, here's the next one. And I hope you're thinking about a couple yourself, otherwise we're going to have to end this show on me and my pet peeve misspellings and mispronunciations. But hopefully you might have a couple too. The next one that I can think of is, I'm going to say it wrong and everyone's going to say, that's not wrong. Mischievous. Karen's thinking. Barbara's smiling.
I know how to say it.
Say it.
Mischievous.
That's correct. And the word is mischievous, 3 syllables. And just, to show people how absolutely picky I am in real life, IRL, when it comes to the spelling of this word, after the V, there is no I. There is 1 syllable, not 2. So wherever people got mischievous, just blows my mind. It's like, are you looking at the same thing I am? And the word is mischievous, and because people pronounce it wrong, I had a lot of problems trying to pronounce it right when I was a kid. It's like, what do people see that I don't see? I can't figure it out, and I couldn't even pronounce the word myself because of the way people pronounce the word. So mischievous is one of my pet peeves. And here's one, and this is going to really piss a lot of people off. Because you hear it probably daily, because when you're referring to one of the 12 months of the year, very few people can pronounce this one right. Can you even imagine what month we're talking about? Barbara's saying yes. Which one, Tim?
February.
That's right. And it bugs me, it's probably because of this childhood song that we used to sing, and or maybe it's an old classic jazz tune that goes January, February, June, and July, and people think, oh yeah, February, February, rhymes with January, right? And of course, that's absolutely wrong. The word is February, 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 and it is hard to say. It's very hard to say, and as a result, newscasters and people across the continent and across the world all say it wrong. And it's like one of these things. I see somebody come on the TV and they say February, and I go, "Yay!" The guy's pronounced it right. So it's just one of the things that I get mentally hung up on. It's probably something that I could go to a counselor for and cure if I really dug in and could figure it out, but I just kind of take it as, well, that's just something that Roland is played with and has to deal with for the rest of his life.
I've got a couple. I don't know if they're on your list.
Go ahead.
The first one is library. Invariably,
Absolutely.
you'll hear it say library.
That's the same problem as February,
Pretty
and
much.
that's very common. Yeah.
The other one, even those of us that can get very picky about stuff like this will make the same mistake.
Oh no.
We say Wednesday, Wends day, when it's actually spelled Wednesday.
You know, that one has always puzzled me, but I thought maybe that's because it was an adaptation from another language or something. I don't know.
Well,
But
February and January, well, all the calendar months are as well.
well, that's true. Roman or origin
Roman
and
and Greek, yep.
right. Well, that makes sense. But Wednesday is definitely a tough word, and but you know it's easy enough to say it um, so that it is phonetically not corresponding to the way it's written. And people say Wednesday, like it's Wensday. That's how you spell Wednesday.
Well, our
And
brain sees it the way it should sound. That's what
yes,
happens.
absolutely. And so, you know, that is part of it, the degradation of the language. Well, first of all, the language was based on complicated issues, and especially the English language. It's incorporating so many different origins and phraseology from all over the world. But definitely, the way people pronounce things causes a lot of misspellings. What do you think, Barbara?
Well, I know my husband used to always mispronounce aluminum. He'd switch all the N's and M's around. I don't know. He may not have it correct yet.
Well, I can add to that. I had a grandfather, and of course, you know, I'm 60 myself, so my grandfather has been in the grave for a long time now. But when we were little kids, he used to tell us, go get the aluminum foil. But the way he said it, he could not speak English very well. And so, you know, this is an example of how the origin and culture of your own language will affect how you speak English. And so he would call it not aluminum, but aluminium. And so he used to say, go get the aluminium foil. And it's like, I'm sorry, grandfather, could you say that again? He'd say, aluminium foil, aluminium foil, aluminium foil, what's wrong with you? And so, oh, aluminum foil, okay, I got it. And so, of course, we could complete the concept there. I want to add one more word that is really kind of like, well, I can't end the show without telling you the one word. We were a couple minutes late starting, so we're a couple minutes late ending. But who cares? Um, anyway, the word that I had in mind was irregardless. There is no word irregardless, and it's used so often I don't even know where it came from. But basically, the ir to start the word is not there, and wherever people use it, the word regardless should be used or can be used, and it's the proper one. But I mean, there's even a comedian that comes on and he basically says whenever you know someone says something to him, a son or daughter or friend or somebody, and starts getting his goat and bugging him, he goes, irregardless, and he uses that word all the time, kind of like a that's enough said, you know, and that wraps up the conversation. So irregardless, this show is basically over. And I thank everyone for being here with us. I thank our wild card panel member for joining us and being with us today, and it's a pleasure having you here, Tim. And Karen, always a pleasure, you know that. And Barbara, we finally got to have our session on proper English grammar, spelling, and pronunciation. And I hope you know who was watching. Maybe he learned something. Anyone have anything final to say? I guess not. I've exhausted people with the English language today. Karen.
Actually, I do have one. It's not more of a pet peeve, but I think it's something that we should all be in the lookout for is when we are writing, even though we're thinking that we're writing here within the United States, if we have businesses in the United States, but we should actually try to write without using any colloquial terms, slang, anything where it could be misconstrued, because I have found that when I have done this in the past, I get responses where they may not understand what I'm trying to say. And so you really have to get your English to be, I wouldn't say the word basic, but enough to where it can be understandable for hopefully everyone globally to understand what you're trying to catch, that to keep that message straight, and to have that flow, where I have used, I think, a couple of times American slang, and it doesn't necessarily fly across globally. So I have learned not to use any slang whatsoever, and because you just never know who is actually reading your post socially.
But that kind of makes Karen a dull girl at times, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
But I find that if you don't do that, you can't offend anybody. You can't have people have misinterpretations of what you're saying, and so I think it's best to try to keep it as simple as possible.
Absolutely, I agree with you, and I'm glad you brought that up, because basically, we have to take responsibility for what we write, and we have to understand that the message we're trying to convey can be misinterpreted. So it's part of our responsibility to convey it as best we can, and that makes a lot of sense. That's what all of this is about, educating ourselves to the proper use of things so that we know how to use them properly, and also know when we're deviating from the norm and expressing in the colloquial, or expressing casually, or being funny, or being humorous, because it always doesn't always translate out humorous in other places. So it's best to be informed and act as your conscience directs you to do the best you can. So thank you very much for this session today on proper grammar, punctuation, and spelling. And I feel a lot better now. I feel like I went to a psychology session, or saw my psychiatrist today. Thanks a lot, you guys. So thanks for being here, and I know that we had some problems with people being able to comment. I will take messages, or SM messages, and respond to you if you have any questions, and also we'll be preparing a document with some of these things so that if anyone wants to download them, you will be able to. Thank you very much for being with us, and good day to everybody. Thanks a lot.